You might start hearing a lot about this. The 20-week moving average here crossing above the 200-week moving average is definitely a notable event. It's the first time event in the entirety of Bitcoin history. There is caution to be warranted with that move. I want to break down why that is in this Bitcoin video. Also going over to ADA on the 6-hour chart. I'm just indifferent right now, waiting to see what ADA does with the rest of crypto, the next move. If there's consolidation in play, I want to discuss what the downside for Cardano could look like. If there's upside, we'll look at that as well. Let's jump into the video. Let's start with Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin on the weekly. So what it is a 20-week moving average in green crossing above that 200-week moving average. I want to zoom out, kind of just discuss that for just a minute. If you look at Bitcoin, you can just see the very bearish thing that ended up happening because of this bear market was just the very fact that this 20-week moving average fell below the 200-week moving average. A lot of that having to do with just the velocity in which Bitcoin fell into this bear market. There wasn't as much sideways consolidation allowing the 20-week moving average here to kind of cool off, right? And that's something that happened in the last Bitcoin cycle all the way back here in 2018. That didn't really happen this time around. So we had the 20-week moving average crossing below the 200-week moving average. The other thing that I just want to point out when we start pivoting to why we should probably be careful with this move, let me first point out, actually, this is bullish. This is a long-term bullish thing that's happening right now. That is to say, the moving average is now turning around, all of them, right? You see the 50 turning around, the 20-week moving average turning around, and all converging, right? Obviously, the 200 is a more flat-lined type of moving average, but it's the convergence of these moving averages we finally want to see. In the bear market, we see them very separated. Now they're wrapping around each other. This is macro consolidation, preparing for that next bull run. That's what we want to see. So on the zoomed out, the long term, it's good that we're getting this 20 moving average crossing above the 200. But that's not a short term necessarily, a short term bullish thing. And a perfect clear example, I'll show you two, but here's the first one. We had the 20-week moving average crossing above the 50-week moving average. That's a very bullish indicator. And it can be portrayed as bullish from just a headline perspective, but look what happened. That was actually marking the top of this swing high that Bitcoin has been in before consolidating back down to the moving averages. And then we can even go back further and we can go back into this last cycle and we can look at this, the 20-week moving average crossing above the 50-week. Such a bullish thing to happen considering the 20 falling below the 50-week was so bearish, right? This was the bear market. You would think this is bullish, and it was in the very long term. In the short term, though, look at where Bitcoin was when that was happening. It was just about to put in the high before just consolidating and actually putting in a pretty big dip, right? Swing high to this swing low, 53%. So if you use this indicator alone, just say, hey, there's a bullish cross right there, the 20 above the 50. Or if we use this indicator and we say, hey, there's the 20 above the 200, it's bullish, we're off to the races. That's not how this works. At least historically, from my point of view and how I see in the charts, that's not how this works. But we take that data now and then we say, okay, maybe Bitcoin does continue separation from the moving averages. We already have this separation here. Maybe it does continue up. Let's look at what that would look like on the charts. But let's consider consolidation into the moving averages similar to what happened back here, consolidation into the moving averages. Here's the daily chart, and we've discussed this before this really even started to happen. We discussed Bitcoin breaking out of this falling channel, hitting the target, and then at the target, consolidating. And look what's happening right now in the daily chart. We are consolidating. We use this upper trend line of this rising wedge back here to kind of act as a guide in this speculative consolidation, but it's starting to play out somewhat. This lower trend or this upper trend line has not been tested. And when I say upper trend line, it's the upper trend line of the rising wedge. It's now the new lower trend line of this speculative ascending triangle. So if Bitcoin continues to consolidate within this range, we'd be looking, or I'm looking to see if Bitcoin will test this trend line right around 29,200. It's around $1,000 away right now. Or maybe it just trickles into it, right? And maybe we're testing it at 29,700. Really curious to see how Bitcoin consolidates now. What kind of structure is there on the shorter term if Bitcoin falls back into this wedge, this rising wedge? Notice this move back here where we got this falling channel consolidation. What is this? That's April. That's mid-April. Going back to that weekly chart, that is this move right here. And if we're looking at it, what is that? That is the 20-week moving average crossing above the 50-week. So we're in a very similar move right now on the weekly. It's a higher high. We're getting a very pivotal moving average move, namely the 20 above the 200. And it's playing into all of the consolidation that's been happening over here on the daily chart. So my question is, are we going to fall back into the rising wedge like we did back here? And if not, what will be the support that makes that not so, right? Will it be this trend line here? So that's the biggest support area I'm watching on Bitcoin right now. Breakout area is just continually just this target out of this falling channel, as well as this previous swing high back here as a really strong area of just resistance, a confluent area of resistance between those two areas, right around $31,000. Can Bitcoin make the move above that area? Then we can start talking about the continuation for Bitcoin to get even more separation from these moving averages. There's a case for it. I just think it's important and a good idea to be cautious and not just use one thing happening on the charts to say that's the bullish indicator we're waiting for. So time will tell. It's important to note we are getting a MACD cross too above zero on the histogram. That's a really bullish move historically. To tell you why that is or show you why that is, if you look at this MACD line crossing above zero, or crossing above the signal line above zero on this histogram, what did that lead to? That led to the all-time highs for Bitcoin. So it led to a really nice, solid, strong move to the upside. So on this weekly chart, we're getting a similar move on this weekly MACD. So that's something to monitor and keep in mind as well. So that's what I'll be watching on the shorter term Bitcoin charts. This is what it looks like on a 6 hour. It's just looking very toppy. But again, I'm allowing some room to the downside to see what happens at this support trend line right in the $29,000 region. So pivoting over to Cardano, this is what I'm watching on Cardano. It's the weekly. It's ugly. It is what it is. I'm just trying to sit back, relax, and wait for the move to happen, the big move. Whether that's BIC or Cardano and the rest of crypto really escapes the area that it's in now, starts putting in new highs, shorter term, midterm highs, or in this case, ADA, if it's going to do another just capitulation type event, another low, test previous lows, that's what I'm watching. On this weekly chart, I want to point out in this story of how is this going to end, right? I'm watching this swing low back here in December and the current swing high on the RSI. Right now, it's setting up to look like some bullish divergence. If on the short term, and we're going to look at short-term ADA charts and look at what downside looks like, if ADA falls, I'm looking to see where does this RSI go to, right? Does it just come here? In which case, we're still having a higher low on the RSI, and we just need to be a little bit more patient on the weekly, right? It starts coming back down, and then we're bouncing. Still kind of some bullish divergence there. Or is it actually going to break the previous low here? In which case, if it does, and it gets into this oversold area, historically, the most it's been ever oversold, can call it opportunity, can also call it mass, crazy fear happening if that happens. But it all kind of starts here on the daily, which is the consolidation we've been tracking. We started tracking pretty recently. It's just this channel that it's in now. Higher highs, higher lows from that capitulation event that did happen back here in June, kind of the beginning of June, not too long ago. And it's probably more easily evaluated on the 6 hour. So on the 6 hour chart, this is what we're watching. And you can just see it's kind of just in the middle. Lower trend line right around 27 cents. Upper trend line right around 31.5 cents. Target to the upside. If ADA breaks out, 38 cents, target to the downside, 22 cents. That's a fear, a very high fear environment, considering ADA was already there not long ago, just weeks ago. So this could be a double bottom type of thing happening for ADA. But again, in that story, if it did fall, I'm really curious to see what is setting up on this weekly chart. ADA, it has a lot going against it right now, and that just is the way it is. That doesn't change my macro outlook for Cardano charts. It doesn't change my macro outlook for Cardano ecosystem and the fundamentals and what's happening. I'm still ultra bullish on Cardano. If not this challenge that it's going through right now, it could equate to even more bullishness depending on how things end up and how the headlines might pivot when this storm is over. So that's ADA on the weekly though, but namely the most important thing that I'm watching on the 6 hour is just this pattern and what happens at support area, what happens at resistance area. Is there a break to the downside? Is there going to be a pullback to that trend line? Only time will tell, but that's what I'm tracking right now, everybody. There's a lot going on, especially in terms of Robinhood and Celsius getting ready, apparently, to sell their ADA. And a lot of people speculating on whether or not that's going to have a drastic impact on these charts. Depends how they do it, in the fashion that they do it. It also depends how quickly they do it. But we'll monitor the charts either way. It doesn't matter what's happening. The charts continue to act as a guide. And that's what I'm looking at on these ADA charts. So let me know, everybody, how you're doing out there. Let me know your thoughts on Bitcoin and Cardano. We're going to continue tracking and seeing what the next move is on these cryptos. Hit the subscribe for more technical analysis, crypto news, all of it. I'm bringing it to you every day, multiple times a day. Hit the like button on the way out. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.